Dear Diary, of all the dangerous men I've met so far in my time in office, Mr. Coronti certainly ranks among the highest. He's a man of wealth and culture, yet his arrogance has removed much of the shine of his presentation in my eyes. However, I must not underestimate him, as his thinly veiled threats carried a lot more personal weight. Tusk, more of an upstart thug, would bluntly threaten my career, but Coronti has threatened my family's life and safety, something I cannot and will not forget. On the economic front, I've decided to redistribute some government gains from Alfonso's ill-conceived pillage of our national industry back to the workers who are starving, while criminals like Coronti bathe in luxury. This is but a stopgap measure until we can get to the root causes for the current malaise, among which corruption certainly has been brought even more to the forefront recently. Before we get to the news, thank you for the comments to point out that there has been an update. I did see that when I was starting the game. I am on the 3.1 branch, so I'm crossing my fingers here that Torpor Games isn't doing any save-breaking things, but of course that means that I'm picking up small changes here and there as the campaign continues. I think one of the things that was pointed out was that the Valkslandian Socialism Codex entry has changed. Now let's have a very quick look over that. The rest was mostly a few bug fixes, UI, and a few codex improvements in terms of lore. So I could have started it with with the previous version, 309, but I figured they are already, at the time when I started the campaign, they were already over a year into it, so into this new version, so we might have been sitting on some annoying bugs or anything that they didn't fix anymore, so I figured we'd go with this one. Anyway, Valkslandian socialism, goes back to Hegel, interestingly enough, and millennialism concentrates on I think previously that said the dictatorship of the proletariat. So they've changed it to revolutionary authority in a vanguard party of the proletariat. I might be wrong here, and it's always said that. But it's, again, a really interesting part, because the whole dictatorship of the proletariat is very commonly misunderstood, because that's not what Marx meant. He didn't mean that as a form of government. It was a completely different context for that term. So the revolutionary authority in the vanguard party, that sounds very much like or more like the Leninist interpretation of things. So Valkslandian socialism rejects single-party centralism in favor of a decentralized structure built on labor union. Yeah, it's more the sort of syndicalist, labor union-based system. Practice has been partially realized the system of dual-stream governance. Political stream decides ideological direction and foreign policy, while the economic stream decides production allocation. Neither stream holds supremacy. Major policy only proceeds when both streams synthesize a common position through the People's Congress, making political legitimacy and material capacity co-equal foundations of government. Interesting. This is, I'm pretty sure this is new. Yeah, a lot's been refreshed here. So they effectively have, well, you could almost say they have sort of two chambers of governance that need to come to an agreement. But it did say it rejects the single party centralism, but in favor of a decentralized structure. So it's not a multi-party state. It's still effectively you could call the streams parties almost, but it's a very different setup. People's Congress is a bicameral legislature filtered through layered delegation rather than direct national elections. Assembly of the People, political chamber is formed by delegates elected upwards from district people assemblies to regional people's assemblies, and then to the national level, where factional majorities shape ideological direction. Council of Regions, Economic Chamber. Okay, interesting. So they have two. Yeah, these are the two chambers. So the Council of Regions does the economic part. It's formed by delegates elected upwards from workers' councils and enterprise union committees to district syndicate councils. Yeah, there we go. Syndicalism. So being made more clear. Economic stream is rooted in workplace authority. Workers' councils govern enterprises, elect management, approve plans, and can remove directors, while union committees send representation proportional to workforce size. This is a very interesting. It's nice that they've fleshed this out, because one of the ideas that I've been sort of thinking into is how would you establish a socialist structure but without complete state micromanagement. So what I had in mind was, certainly workers shared ownership of things, and a lot of influence, like more of a democratization of enterprise. If you look at capitalist systems today, and it's very arguable that most of the Western systems aren't capitalist. They are enterprise socialist systems, where you would privatize gains and socialize losses, and take money from the populace and feed it into enterprise and into the wealthy. So, but yeah, it was an interesting thought experiment. How would you set this up? So my primary thinking was around shared ownership. Whereas here it seems more to be, because that's what I was getting. If you look at business structure today, it's effectively dictatorial. It's more aligned with a military setup. You have C-suite executives at the top who give certain directions. You've got middle management, lower management who execute upon the set goals, similar to how you would say certain levels of command structure in an army structure. And then you have the grunts on the ground who effectively get their mission and their tactical missions of, say, capture this particular region, destroy this particular enemy, only in a business environment. So it's actually a lot more aligned to, let's say, a military structure than it would be to a democratic structure in some ways. So this is an interesting way of feeding of fusing sort of the democratic principle with it. The downside, of course, is that. Or the counter argument to this would obviously be that you say, which is the same counter argument to democracy, which is to say that the workers don't have the necessary education or long-term vision or oversight that is required to make strategic decisions at management level. So if they have to approve the plans and can remove directors, then they are directly electing the management, then obviously management reports to the workers rather than to the shareholders, which is the whole inverse of it. And personally, I think this is, even outside the game, I think this is not a bad experiment to make. Anyway, economic planning is drafted by the Council of Regional Economic Coordination, only takes effect after approval by both chambers. Once approved, the plan moves downward as targets and allocations. Chancellor sets national benchmarks, region distribute assignments, districts coordinate labor and inputs to syndicates, and enterprise execute under workers' oversight. The system is designed to make plans implementable with production interests able to veto unrealistic quotas as effectively as political majorities can block policies that violate ideological commitments. So another problem, obviously, that you have with this sort of bottom-up or ground-up democratic structure is that they can be inefficient. So an enterprise by itself that sees its workers merely as a means of resources, human resources and means of production, can be ruthlessly efficient and compete with others on that efficiency, which unfortunately, given that the employees are seen as mere, as mere tools or resources, oftentimes happens on the back of those. But whereas, let's say, for example, a company is not productive and does not make a profit, would you, because it has gone in the wrong direction or it produces a product that the market no longer needs, would the workers in that company vote? Let's say the company needs a change of direction, which means that more concrete principle. Right? Let's say the company makes a certain widget, but the market for that widget has died out. Let's say the company made analog telephones, and smartphones are coming up, but the company isn't set up for the electronics market. So would the workers vote for a change of plan that would require either retraining or letting go of parts of the workforce which are no longer needed for the new product and the new direction that they're making, given that this would directly impact them? So there are some interesting nuances to the whole thing outside of the obvious, of Anton's obvious direction. But yeah, Anton loves this, and it's certainly the direction that I had in mind. So it goes more along with what I had in mind for where Anton wants to lead Swordland to. People's Party remains the dominant political vehicle, functions as a broad coalition rather than a vanguard. Factions compete openly within it. Okay, interesting. So they do have a so instead of having yeah. Instead of openly having different parties, you have one party, but within the party you have factions. So you've got Democratic Left, Orthodox Continuists, Productivists, Agrarian Socialists, Anarcho-Syndicalists, and Hegelian Center. Bias to culminate in a fully plural multi-party regime, but this transition has not yet been achieved. Competition has largely remained internal, as factional splintering and rivalry have made durable external party formations difficult. That's kind of where I was getting at. So you obviously start having, it doesn't matter how you structure it. If you structure things as opposing parties that are separate from each other, or as opposing factions within one party, there will always be strife to a degree, and that can be productive. But that's sort of the key, no? How do you keep it productive? And how do you keep it from becoming destructive? Hegelian Center has become the prevailing status quo force, frequent broker between wings and between chambers, consolidating reforms and mediating disputes. Turn into independence versus alliance, local surplus retention versus redistribution, and sectoral demands versus national targets. Many revisionist Hegelian centrists claim that Volkslandian socialism cannot exist in its full form without transforming the factions into separate parties. Well, then you basically be a democracy. And that it therefore exists only in a partial state. It is rumored that Chancellor Hegel committed to reforms to convert these factions into independent parties by 1965. That's not that far in the future. So this puts a very interesting, slightly different slant on the Volkslandian socialism and fleshes that out a lot more, and also points out some of the frictions and some of the problems within the system, because they started out from a, I think, traditional millennialist revolutionary state, and effectively they're now moving towards social democracy or democratic socialism, whichever way you want to put it around. So at some point, you split up the party into multi-party system. You do official elections, and then all that's really left from the socialist ideas, or from the original millennialist ideas. Well, it goes even before that. So from the original, I forgot what was the name of the. It was obviously not Marx, but the original idea, the original foundational underpinning of this. The only thing that's left really is the business organization and the whole sort of planned economy thing. But then, if you start breaking up these people, let's say you have a productivist, I don't know what that entails, but I'm assuming they are trying to maximize production output. Then you get these people in power. Then at that point they'll start questioning, can we overthrow these structures? So unless you root this into some form of constitution that cannot be messed with, and say we have a socialist constitution that enshrines this kind of structure, and the parties get to work within the framework of that constitution, then otherwise you very quickly divert into very different directions. Anyway, slight tangent here, but very, very interesting. So for now, what have we done last episode? We've talked to Coronti, or rather we've been threatened by Coronti, including my family's health and safety, which I do not take kindly to, that sort of thing. And obviously the news we're going to look at next are going to be, well, are going to change accordingly. Let me just put it that way. So our economy remains unstable. Graph goes down again. This does not look too great. However, we have begun distributing government funds to the poor in order to stimulate demand, and hopefully that'll make a dent into our recession a little bit. Of course, this isn't a sustainable way of the government paying people to buy stuff. The next step will have to be that the businesses need to actually hire people and pay them fair wages in order for things to work. And yes, I'm still strongly suspecting, given the inflation rate and everything else, that we need we need to export ourselves out of this. And lots more to do in that regard. But let's check the news first and let's see what's going on. The Economist is not going to have a good word to say about this, I'm sure. Unemployment and checks. The administration has fallen for populism and the idea that giving people money will solve the problems of the economy overall. It is hard to grasp where these ideas come from, especially when long-term job growth and employment is what this country needs to secure in order to have a stable economy. What's the plan here? People will be able to pay their rents for a few months and then they will fall back into the same unemployment trap due to lack of job availability or security. The businesses can't carry all the weight of the declining economy on their own shoulders and employ people without help from the government. Yes, because obviously the capitalist newspapers believes that capitalist businesses cannot be profitable without being propped up by the government. Remember what I said 5 minutes ago about that form of socialism. Administration needs to reevaluate their way out of the recession with realistic methods. It was clear that they're coming with this, but I find it hilarious how clear they're showing that. Their ideological blindness on this whole thing. All right, I'm assuming that the radical has the exact opposite views. Help comes at last. The new administration led by President Rain has accomplished a great feat by providing stimulus checks to help people in need. These started going out as soon as the act was approved by the president himself, and all eligible people in the lower income brackets received nearly 4 months of the average salary on a single day. That is actually not what I was hoping for. I was hoping we would stretch that out a bit. This was such a powerful political move that resonated very well with the populace. Praise where praise is due. When the people were in dire need of help and suffered, the president came to their aid. Giving people 4 months worth of the average salary in a single day is not the greatest way of doing this. You really, really need to spread that out, because what we're doing now is we're creating a demand avalanche, which is inflationary, and obviously the people are incentivized to spend their money unwisely very quickly, and then holding the hand open again. But neither option was perfect. So unfortunately, we have poured out the bucket over them rather than giving them a more gradual assistance. Well, thanks to this action, many who were economically insecure have just received a second chance to bounce back. Help came to the people at last. Unfortunately, also now responsibility is with the people to not just spend it all on parties and alcohol, but to do something sensible with it. And it will flow, obviously, back into the economy. So I don't know what the Economist is talking about. I mean, what are people going to do with it? Burn it? It flows into the economy, and hopefully the sudden increase of demand is going to at least put. I'm not going to say that it's going to get businesses to hire somebody, but they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have done that with government support either. And it at least hopefully gets people fed. And maybe it also helps a little bit with the unrest in the streets. That would be nice, because people who aren't hungry and who don't feel left behind are much less motivated to buy extremism. Anyway, with that all out of the way, and over half of our government funds already spent, let's look at what's going on in Deir. Oh, we've got the funeral of Bernard Circas. That's what's happening. Okay. The death of Bernard Circas has shocked the country, and his funeral will be held in Deir among a large crowd of sympathizers. Circas was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that had a voice. A state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question is whether the president and the administration will attend the funeral or not. Oh, heck yeah, we are going to attend the funeral. This is going to piss off a lot of people, I'm sure, especially on the right. But this is again a matter of representation. So it is important for the people to see Anton Rain acting, because we have obviously massive problems. We have unrest in the streets. We've got the youth organizations going onto each other's throats. We've probably got Rumburg arming minority radicals or terrorist groups in order to cause more instability and prepare the country for an invasion. So being present and showing the face is important. It's important to be among the people and to show the people that this administration is for the people, and it is not for the rich who isolate themselves in their coastal mansions and leave the country with all their property as soon as the going gets tough. But we have to be out there with the people. Now, of course, this is again a security consideration, but so it is entirely possible that the Young Swords or other terrorist organizations might take that opportunity to cause unrest or make maybe assassination attempts. But I think it is a risk that is necessary to take, because holding up is not a solution. We need to be out there. We need to show the people that we care, that we work for, and that we work for a better future, and that we do not, that we are not cowed. So, effectively, not going would give the terrorists who made that attack would give them would boost their aim of what they were trying. It would show that we have been intimidated, and we cannot be intimidated. So heck no, we attend the funeral. Is that going to come back to bite me? We shall see. Nothing has gone catastrophically wrong so far. No news. The high-speed rail project is under construction. No further news, but we will see. Also, last thing, the giving money to the poor is a nice balance to the business-friendly high-speed rail project as well. So we are Swordland for all people, not just for the, including even people like Mr. Coronti, if he likes it or not. All right, next. Okay, there's the funeral, right? So. Okay, so that was just the decision to actually go there. Now we actually have the funeral. The other factor actually about the funeral is that it happens in the Bergia region, and showing my face here is also vitally important, because I have plans. We do need to deal with the whole situation we do need to deal with the whole political situation, but I do have plans, obviously, to remove the special administration, which is basically making this its own government within the government, and bring Bergia back in as a normal state of Swordland. Of course, that also means we need to deal with the militants on the ground. But it's a good start to show my face here and saying that A, I care, B, I come from here, and C, I'm the president and not the governor. Dark clouds were looming over Deir. They looked daunting as our convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. It looked like it was going to rain, certainly fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, Bernard Circas' passing maintained its media traction, and all of Swordland was paying attention to the ceremony, especially to what I would say in my speech today. Serge, we have arrived. I haven't heard much from Serge. He's actually I feel like he's quite vital, because he's not just my driver, he's also my bodyguard. and I really need somebody I can trust when it comes to that. Raindrops were running down the car window when Serge opened my door and held an umbrella over my head. As soon as I got out, flashes from the cameras blinded me. I will not diminish him. Thank you. It's my duty, sir. He silently started following me while holding the umbrella. Peter and Karl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way to me. Karl... Oh, yeah, the chief of police. I forgot about him. Haven't heard anything from that investigation lately. What happened to that investigation into the arson at the university archives? Let's see if we get anything, if we have anything to learn. Okay, Peter is here, and Mr. Greiser is here. I just wanted to inform you that the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There is no one getting in or out without our knowledge. Thank you, but look, it is a public occurrence, right? Rifles exist. People can hide weapons. People can hide potentially explosives among themselves. There are many ways for somebody who's determined and does not value his own life. And we've already seen this in the actual assassination of Circas, right? Because it was clear, because he was gunned down 50 meters from the presidential guards at the palace gates, which means the attacker had no intention of surviving, but he wanted to make a statement. So if you're dealing with people who are happy to give their own life in order to make statements, security is always going to be a massive problem, no matter what you do. But still, I appreciate the effort. Let's do what we can and see where it goes. You better be right for your sake. Okay, so I can effectively belittle him and point out his failure. It wasn't a failure on his side, right? The guy never got into the compound. Now we could argue that we should have created a wider cordon around it in order to prevent this, but honestly, I don't see this as a failure on his side. So I'm definitely not going to threaten him, but for now, I'm just going to thank him for his efforts. Now, I do still have a suspicion here that there is something else going on with him and what's her name, my interior. That there are some things that people aren't telling me. But for now, I'm just going to thank him, because that's really the only decent thing to do. He bowed his head with respect. Good, if anything happens to Anton, you will have to answer to the First Lady. Yeah, I don't actually know what would happen. Honestly, I'm trying not to, but look, we all knew what we did when we went into politics, right? In a country like Swordland that just came out of dictatorship, oligarchic breakdowns, civil wars and everything, there is a risk coming. And we know that every time we go into the office in the morning, that we are taking a higher risk in a politically volatile situation like this, where political violence is happening in the street. So we can either hide in our beds, but I think if you take on the responsibility of the president, you do not have that luxury. And trust me, Karl, you don't want that. Peter let out a laugh, which drew some attention from bereaved attendees. Peter, decorum. You are the only one who can make me laugh at a funeral. We shouldn't be laughing. I don't think any of us want that, but yeah, I'm gonna gesture to him to lower his voice. I don't think he meant something bad, but he can be a little he can be a little unrefined at times with these things. So I'm a gesture to him to lower his voice. You're right, sorry. It's all right. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices. That's what friends are for, right? Of course, I appreciate his attempt at levity. But at the same time, there's a time and place for things, and a funeral is not it. So he also he relies on me as well to keep him in check. That's between friends. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. "We have a small problem, sir." Okay, let's see what it is. Do we have young swords showing up? A few, 5 to be exact, Red Youth members are here to attend the funeral. They apparently said they wish to pay their respects to their fallen comrade. I see where this goes. Okay. This is gonna be interesting. Should we let them in? So, for obvious reasons, I mean, it makes sense, right? Let's say the leader of the National Party was assassinated by a communist terrorist, and we would have members of the Young Swords coming over, saying that they wish to pay their respects. Do they pose a security threat? 5 of them, probably not. I don't think they would start anything. Obviously, the Red Youth have been enacting political violence, so we can't just let them in and roam around, because they. I could actually ask his assessments if he thinks they pose a security threat. I don't think 5 are. I would argue, given the current political situation, we should let them in, but have a few guards. We should be able to deal with 5 of them. If it was 50, I would say no. But for 5, let's ask his opinion. Do you think they pose a security threat? No, they were thoroughly searched. It looks like they really are here to attend the funeral. So just because they have no weapons on them doesn't mean they can't start trouble. Especially if we don't want any kind of trouble. Now, I don't know if there's anyone else at the funeral who is in attendance who would be a target for these guys to make a political statement. What we want to avoid is that they are trying to make a political statement out of this. So even if they're not attacking anybody, it is entirely possible that, let's say, they would rush on, let's say we're lowering the casket into the ground. The priest is saying a few words, and then we've got these guys coming in, starting shouting slogans or something, or starting loudly proclaiming the revolution or something like that. It wouldn't be a security issue, but it would clearly be a bad look. So let them in, but put a few guards on them. I think, given the situation on the street, that is understandable that we have to take these measures, but at the same time, we're also letting in. All right, let's head over. They're about to start. Let's see if I come to regret this. We walked towards the crowd circled around the grave. Everyone in attendance was wearing black in mourning. The rain started pouring heavily. Bernard's widow and daughter were in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, a cold, unforgiving sadness. Yeah, I can imagine that. Are we responsible for this? In the end, it happened on. The buck stops with the president. It happened in my presidency, so to a degree, I have to take responsibility, not in the sense that I let it happen or that it was negligence that it happened, because I don't think it was, but in that we need to deal with the consequences. Of course, that doesn't help the widow, but or the family. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. Before taking my place to observe the ceremony, I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Diana. Yes, I can see that. It's good that I did that. No matter how they take it. When the religious ceremony was done, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I felt like I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today, we are mourning Bernard Circas, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Towards the back of the crowd, I spotted the members of the Red Youth wearing red shirts and black bands in mourning on their arms. They seemed ruly and were respectfully bowing their heads. Good. There was complete silence except for the sound of raindrops. Okay, now we can... we have choices for our speech. Now, let me organize my thoughts before we start with this. I think a call for unity is necessary because it is a time of mourning. So it should be pointed out that it is a time of mourning. I didn't agree with everything that Circas said because he was more of the millennialist revolutionary, but at the same time we were obviously closely aligned politically. So what do I want to get across during that speech? Well, first of all, most importantly, that political violence will stop, that the fighting in the street will stop. If I have anything to say about it, and I am the president, so that means I do. But at the same time, also that I think it's also good to. The question is how much of a stand do I want to take in ideologically here? Because at the end of the day, I am the president of all swords. But I also have to make it clear that that there are certain directions that I will take the country into. Ideally, I'd not focus on that too much, but remain left neutral. Let me put it that way. So. Well, I don't mind pointing out that I was aligned with him ideologically, but I don't want to turn this into a rallying call for revolution in the streets, because that's not my plan. That's not how I want to go. So options we have. This is a great loss for us all. Neutral. I confess that I disagreed with Circas almost entirely. No, I didn't. Regardless of his ideology, it was a heinous act made towards a good man. We must end this cycle of violence. He was a true comrade and he fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of Swordland in every step of his life. So, 2 is out. And 3 I'm not... 1's neutral, 2's out. 3 I'm not entirely certain of the direction. Regardless of his ideology, can be interpreted in 2 ways. It can be interpreted as I didn't agree with his ideology, but still it was a heinous act made towards a good man. Or I could lean hard and say he fought for what he was a true comrade and he fought for what he believed in. So that would putting the strong political angle on it. I think I'm going to go with 3. And the way I'm interpreting it is it didn't matter what his ideology was. It was a heinous act made towards a good man, and we have to end this cycle of violence. We do not want to have a violent revolution, but we will have a peaceful transition of Swordland towards the economy that I'm thinking of. Now, again, this could be interpreted as, regardless of his ideology, because I didn't agree with him, but that's not how I choose to read this. We will make sure that unfortunate events such as this will never happen again. We can't. Circas had a dream of a unified Swordland. In these next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. Yes, thumbs up. I interpret this attack as an attack against Swordland and by extension against me personally. I do, actually. I do actually interpret this as an attack against me personally. But, okay, so neutral. I like this, a dream of a unified swordland. So this is the call for unity rather than political division. This is true and a statement of solidarity, I would say, but also again a radical statement. And this is, of course, the direct call for now that I'm done, go grab your rifles and shoot everybody in the street who disagrees with you. So that's not where we're going to get at. I'm going to focus on his dream for a unified swordland. Of course, he had specific ideas what that unity was looking like, but still, he had a dream of a unified swordland. In the next months, we need to fulfill his dream and band together. Let us all mourn the passing of Bernard Circas and remember him. Hatred begets hatred. This is only one way to overcome this. There's only one way. We must unite against the evil of this world. The tears of the family he left behind have a price that needs to be paid. I will not stop until it is paid in full. Yeah, again, we're not calling for more blood in the streets, because that is literally... that would basically be me getting up there and doing what I was posting guards behind the young swords, behind the red youth, in order for them not to do, which is turn this into a rallying call for more violence and more blood in the street. And the only thing that leads to is more mourning widows and daughters. Hatred begets hatred. There's only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. I have to look that up. I think he did leave me with a poem at the very beginning when he was talking to me during the inauguration ball. But I can't remember it in full, so I have to review that quickly, because if I'm going to recite, all right, so I'm going to have to quickly pull up the recording from that episode, because if I can recite that, or if Anton can recite that, and he obviously knows what's in it, so I can know what's in it. So I don't think that is anything that is in any way breaking things. But I want to see if that's, before I click on that, I want to see if that's appropriate for the occasion. Okay, he said something along the lines of to ride towards the sun means to go through the flame, and you get burned, but only this way we can find true glory. I don't know if this is the one I'm going to recite. It would be... I think it would be not completely inappropriate. And given that... given my choices so far, I'm sincerely hoping that Anton is reciting a poem that is not brothers, take up arms and overthrow the shackles of those who oppress you. May the blood of the oppressor cleanse our streets, or something like that. I do sincerely hope that we get something conciliatory. Because otherwise this would have been putting this into a very dark direction. But I think it is appropriate to honor him that way, because we have been relatively conciliatory throughout the whole thing. And with that, I think ending it with a poem to point out, well, the man, after all, that we just buried here, is appropriate. So let's do that. I can choose. Okay. I was legitimately afraid that we'd suddenly get the blood, sweat, and tears kind of speech. All right. Our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. Okay. We rise towards the sun. Those who died fighting. They are now buried in the sun. No need to mourn. There's a raid to the sun. Okay. That is a very weird way of putting it. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Interesting. Which one do we choose? Okay, let's analyze this. First one, our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. So this is effectively, this says, no matter what happens, we all know that we're eventually going to die. So our only strength is that no matter what happens, we will move on and make our life count, because we know that that it is finite anyway. So it's not about prolonging it by all means, but it's about making count what you do with your time. Okay, the second one sounds like a sort of Red Youth rallying call. We rise towards the sun. Those who died fighting. They are now buried in the sun. No need to mourn. There is a raid to the sun. Okay, that is much more in line with what or similar to what he told me before we left. But this sounds too much like a rallying call for me. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Again, sounds like to arms, comrades. Let us seize the means of production. I think the first one is the one I like most out of this, because again, it is. I think it's most in line with what I've been with the call for unity that I've been putting. All right, a moment of silence, please. Yeah, let's do that. During the silence, all that was heard were the ravens. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. The coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers. After a couple of minutes, Bernard Circas was with the soil no more. And we're going to close with the Swordish motto. I think it was something like, the morning will come, victory is near, something like that. So I think that's a good call. Again, unity. With applauses, I stepped down from the podium. It was time to leave. This was actually hard. Sorry, you might have heard that in my voice. This was actually hard to go through. Don't know why that affected me so much, but it was very well made. The widow thanked me with a soft and defeated voice before we dispersed. On my way back to the car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Diana, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Yes, they would. Absolutely, they would. But that's what we live for. Like you said, no? Make the time count. At least Peter enjoyed the speech and had respect in his voice. Thank you, Peter. I mean that. Time to go. We've got work to do. That we do indeed. We had work to do, so much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. As someone once said, even the darkest night will end and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Whew, that was not easy to go through. And I do have to applaud the game here for making me quite emotional about this. So I'm going to end the episode here, and I think we handled that as good as we possibly could. And now we must look at the manifold problems that still remain.